Good evening and welcome to the Sparta Media Group studios here in Boulder, Colorado. I'm your host, Jeff Cisneros, filling in for Todd Romero tonight. Todd, I hope you feel better. And I'm joined none other than the man himself, the king of Lethway, Dave Leduc, and Combat Sports Lethway Analyst of the Year for 2019, Mr. Robin Black. It's a pleasure to have you, gentlemen. How are you doing?
Good to be here.
Good to be here.
How's Wyoming treating you so far?
I love it. It's peaceful. It's the air is very fresh, and did for a run today. I like the elevation.
That's awesome. You guys are being treated to some special weather right now, because typically right now we're buried in snow and wind. But you know, the thing about Wyoming, it's so beautiful because Brian Pedersen, the commissioner up there of the combative sports, he is just, he's a visionary and he's very innovative. And when we talk about how can we keep things rolling during the pandemic, he had all these great opportunities. He's a huge fan of Lethway and also all the bare knuckle sports. So Brian, I know you're watching tonight. Thank you so much. Gentlemen, I want to talk to you, Robin, first. You've covered fights all over the world. How big is this fight for the people out there that maybe are familiar with MMA, boxing, and kickboxing, but don't know the following Lethway has?
You actually covered in Myanmar. You actually covered Lethway.
Yeah, I did. I traveled. That was one of the great experiences of my life, actually, was traveling to Myanmar and meeting the Burmese people. This is a pure art form. This is the purest form of striking arts that there is in the world. Once you add the head to it, and now you have the 9 limbs, there's so much more creativity, different movements and angles and geometric shapes that a violent artist like Dave can create. And it's an absolute pure and visceral art form. And after the Burmese people, I think America is where people will enjoy it the most, in the world. And so to come here to an area, and see the people here, there's a weird similarity between the people of Wyoming and the people of Myanmar, don't you think, Dave? It's gonna be a wonderful thing. This is the future of striking sports. It's been around for 1,500 years, but it is also the future of striking sports. It's going to be amazing.
It's the past, the present, and the future of striking.
Yeah, I'm excited. I first saw it in 2014. A friend of mine, Chris Trammell, who's a great Muay Thai fighter, he showed it to me, and I watched the video, and I couldn't believe it. I was just like, this is the craziest stuff I have ever seen in my life. It's exciting, but we'll never see anything like this here. So it wasn't even a thought at that time. So to be sitting here present day with the biggest fight that can happen in the sport, it's very exciting. And we've seen it from, all the way back to September when we debuted it with LT Nelson out there. There has been so many fighters just completely freaking out, losing it, that you're here, Dave, that you're here in the United States. They're going to get to see you fight live in Wyoming and on pay-per-view. People are pumped. What does this mean to you?
Well, I didn't think I was going to live it in my lifetime. I told this Robin off air, I knew that there was bare knuckle boxing catching some heat in the States, but to add headbutts, elbows, kicks, knees, everything in KO to win at the same time in all one package, I think all the stars have aligned, and thanks to you as well for having the guts to put on a show with Lethway. I think it's gonna go into history books. Nobody can take that away from us and from you, from having hosted the first Lethway World Championship on U.S. soil. It's crazy, so I'm very pumped.
Well, we're excited. We have a very innovative team here, as we talked about. Our marketing director, Shelby Ellis, he deserves a lot of credit for making this fight happen as well. I told him, we joked with everybody, he literally risked his job to make this fight happen. But, we're excited. And the thing about Sparta, we've been known for always doing things outside the box. We're not just MMA. We're not boxing, kickboxing. We launched the King of Sparta tournament, where you got to win a boxing fight, a kickboxing fight, and an MMA fight.
That's cool.
All in one night. And then when, Brian, when Brian brought to my attention, the commissioner of Wyoming, he's like, hey, BK MMA, let's make history, let's do it. And then we start talking about Lethway, and one thing led to another, and here we are. The buzz is huge. The event is trending to be one of the biggest non-boxing, non-MMA pay-per-view combat sports ever.
It will.
I agree.
And I think, and with all humbleness, I want to brag about this afterwards and say, look, that's Lethway. And now America adapt to what the guys have done in Wyoming and Colorado. This is what we're here to stay. And it's it's kind of a tricky position because Lethway has been in the shadow of the world for hundreds of years when it was a military dictatorship in Myanmar, unfortunately. And then they're just becoming open to the world. So where we're living usually happens only one time in each sports in each country around the world. So this is beyond exciting for me.
We talked about it the other night. In all great combat sports, those rivalries, right? and now we have you versus Cyrus. How important is this for your legacy that you go in there and you finish the fight with a knockout?
It's I'm feeling it already. I could go fight right now, Jeff. But what it means to me is everything, because, well, this fight makes sense a lot because Cyrus is the only guy to have knocked out into men and to have succeeded in Litway. With being very honest, like most guys that come into Litway from other disciplines, kickboxing, Muay Thai, MMA, they get dropped, they get overwhelmed by the pain threshold, or they're holding the arms and then they get the weapon in the middle, the headbutt, which is like, oh shit, I forgot about that, And even when I was training in Thailand early in my career, I had to explain to the Thai people how to hold pads. But they're neighboring countries of Myanmar, and they should know. It's so. And actually, Muay Thai comes from Litway.
That's right.
And, back in the days, because Muay Boran got inspired from Litway. Muay Boran is an art form similar to Muay Thai with headbutts and rope, and then evolve into Muay Thai. But my point is, it's something that had to be done.
It's very interesting too when you remove something. So this was the purest art form. And there's some talk that leadership in Thailand at the time was like, we love this, but maybe we got to remove this.
Yeah, they
right?
did. Yeah.
And here we are, 1,000 years later, and we're putting it back in and getting the purest art form we can. And with Cyrus is a really important. This is an important fight because Cyrus is part of the Letway history, the modern Letway history, and its connection to the United States as well. And Dave and he fought, and the fight didn't finish. And at the time, with the traditional rules, you have to finish, or it's considered a draw, no matter how much you sliced him up.
Yeah, exactly. And
so as a result, he is part of that history, and this finalizes that element of the history of Letway.
Because to continue on what you said, I don't want to. I know that if you look in the history books 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 50 years from now, okay, yes, Cyrus came before me into Myanmar and fought me early. I didn't cut the ring as much as I could. I don't want to say, I'm going to let our talk on Saturday, but I've been very pissed off at my bro, very critical and very pissed off. Honestly, I've been sour about this. I've been telling my coach ever since. I want to go fight right now, but I've been saying, okay, if there's some way that the promoters are going to give him another shot at the title, and I want him again, he wants it because he thinks he studied me, he thinks he knows how to beat me perfect. I take a lot of pride in adapting fight after fight. I don't need 110 fights to fuck him up. I can swear on this?
Yes.
So
let me speak too for Cyrus, because he's not here.
Yep.
If you think about this from his perspective, this is exactly the same defining point for him. Yep. He can come now and try to. This story right now, the modern story of Letway revolves around Dave Leduc, because Dave has not only been a foreign champion, been a great champion, but also brought this art form to the world. Cyrus can come in and in one night say, I will change that history. And that will be his motivation. You can see him in his mind saying, that will not happen. But that's what this guy's coming in here to do too. And Cyrus has traveled the world. And one thing that does give him a good situation is he has traveled the world competing in many different art forms. Yeah. And most people do not have that amount of history, and that's why this is a very tense fight as well. Yeah. Because, and also something that you guys are doing beautifully is on this card, early in the night, we've got some kickboxing, then we've got some Muay Thai, then we've got some glory rule structure, we've got some MMA. Throughout the night,
the main event
is that way. It's the perfect unfolding as we connect the audience to all these different elements, and then they get the big cake at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. We're excited about it. I think what's interesting for me, Robin, is to see the names, the level of the names that are excited and talking about this fight. You got, Frank Shamrock, Kung Lee, Boss Root, and even some of the, the modern day warriors of, UFC and everything else. Yeah, it's one of those things like, hey, the baddest man on the planet might be sitting next to us right now with Letway. I mean, it is an absolutely beautiful sport. It's beautifully violent.
100%.
And that is the thing that I noticed in watching all the old footage and the videos and watching your training. People are going to be in for a treat. You guys are going to steal so much combat sports fans from MMA and boxing over to start watching this as well. I mean, there's just no way for it to not be exciting. Like, I have not seen a fight that was boring.
And we both been on the Joe Rogan podcast, and we spoke about headbutts. Joe is a big proponent of having headbutts back into MMA because early UFC, Mark Coleman, he spoke about it recently, said headbutt is, we're born with a skull. We should learn how to at least use it, how to protect it. But it's such a natural. You've done a lot of breakdowns on headbutts, and like it's such a natural weapon. And I think it's been demonized in society. And I spoke about it with Joe. Like, but if you look at like Batman, everywhere in every culture, in every fucking movie, there's a headbutt. And I'm not joking. I'm actually saving all of them to make a compilation. In every movie, there was one in Charlie's Angel in the plane coming here.
Yeah,
that's
so
right.
There was but my point is, Lithuania. Why I'm so proud is that it's the last remaining sport art that has the headbutt, and it will not change for anybody. It's not going to water down for this woman from whatever. Like, I want to see less blood on TV. They're not going to change. So Lithuania is going to stay like this, and we can be proud of that. And I'm very very excited.
The relation of the way that it is viewed by the Burmese people. You could be an 83-year-old woman or a 7-year-old kid. You understand the visceral nature of it. You understand the honesty of it. This is honest fighting. This is true honest fighting. In its purest sense, when Bruce Lee talked about fighting, he talked about using the whole body. I mean, it makes no sense to take an artist and remove some of the tools. You don't get as good at painting, you don't get as good at music, and you don't get as good at fighting.
True.
Yeah, talking about your fans, the Burma people, the support there is unbelievable. We were just talking about it. 28 million people watched you fight live on TV there. Yeah. What has that support meant for you, being that you're not even a native of there, and how much pressure's on your shoulders to make them proud? It's
very humbling, because we go in the streets in Myanmar, and Robin saw in Myanmar, like I saw some people that show me, their screensaver is my wedding picture with my wife in Burmese clothing. So it's pretty humbling, but I see that like I want to give back. Because they changed my life. Their sport, and Lithuania, which is now my sport, changed my life and my family's life and the life of many people's. I know that the more the sport will grow, and this is part of it as well, the more people will go to Myanmar to watch, to get into the culture and train Lithuania. So I think that's my way to give back, because it will help the economy, more tourism, hotels, restaurant, sports. So. A lot is on it, because I feel like it's my duty, and I have to give back to them, because their ancient martial art changed my life.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, and not even just there. I mean, your international stardom has really skyrocketed in the UK, Australia, Japan, and here even in America. I was blown away how many of our fan base already knew who you were, and we're so excited to see it come. The thing that I find is most interesting is how humble you are, what a gentleman you've been.
Thank you.
But when that cage door locks, it's going to be pure savagery. How excited are you for this to go down in the cage, too, where you can't fall through the ropes?
What do you think about the cage?
Yeah, it definitely changes things, and that vertical playing surface is a barrier. It isn't elastic the same, but it favors aggression, and Dave's aggressive. And so when I saw, and both, Cyrus has fought in cages before, but Dave fights in a caged mentality too. And when I was there, sitting beside that ring in hundreds of year-old building with Burmese people going crazy and the beautiful music playing, and I saw Dave, honestly, like from commentating 500 plus shows and analyzing tens of thousands of fights, I've rarely seen somebody go into like a trance. He's in an altered physiological and mental state when he fights. And that suits a cage very, very well. It's easy to talk about movement to weapons, techniques, elbows, positioning, but that's not really what it's about. We get distracted by those things. It's about the elegant vulgarity and the essence of the fight itself. And in those ways, I think a cage is a very good thing for Dave Leduc.
I think you're a poet. I think you're really the fighting poet. I love how I can listen to you all day. It's fucking great. And to add this, I think when I fought in Myanmar in the ring, a lot of my opponents were either bending over the ropes or frontal like this. I could have punched over their face, but the reflex is, okay, he's bending over the ropes, you break, resume. I didn't like that, and I feel like the cage is you can't hide. You can't hide because the ropes are not bouncy, and I think it's gonna favorize the headbutts. It's gonna favor out the dirty boxing because you can't move, and there's no dead end in corners in a square ring. So I know my mistake was I was running around after him in our first fight. so there's nowhere to run in the cage.
Yeah. The thing I noticed with Cyrus, he's very explosive with his spinning tactics, the spinning elbow, the spinning heel hook. He's dangerous. There's no doubt about that. How do you break him? You just pressure him? You feel like if you pressure him, you break him?
They have to watch on Saturday.
The dynamics between the two of them really is beautiful. It's almost, they're speaking very different languages.
He hates me right now, and there's a brotherhood in Litway,
Yeah.
but there's no brotherhood between me and him right now. It's a great match, like you said.
And that probably, I mean, it certainly favors us, the viewers. You know? Like to have them want to hurt each other. You know, ideally, you seek to fight in serenity. You know, to allow the fight to unfold. But then sometimes it's about viciousness, and this might be one of those times. The look on his face suggests that it's going to be. And Cyrus will watch this, and he'll feel the same way. You know, Cyrus, this is important to him. You know, he's traveled the world as a combat sportsman his whole life. This is who he is too.
Yeah.
You know, birds fly, fish swim. These two men fight each other in cages. That's what this is, and he will be feeling exactly the same way. And when he watches this and he looks at Dave this way, he'll feel this way and will feel that. And I'm feeling that right now, you know, that it will come alive. And that's what a fight is. It isn't punches and kicks or footwork and range management and tactics. It's the trained brains of two human beings expressing combat in the dynamic between them. And Letway is unlike all other fighting. It is purer. It is more pure.
Free form,
Yeah.
free fighting. It's really, and the fact that there's no gloves and you can do all your limbs, I really feel like the sky's the limit. There's no blockage. It's really freeing, freeing form. And you know, if you look at, for example, like kickboxing, or you know, if you look in kickboxing, one of my friend, you know, high-level kickboxers, they say if I fight without the gloves, I would break my hands. But then you have, you know, like some Muay Thai guys are like, well, I'm only used to clinching with my two arms, but you forget other weapons. So it's there's sometimes less kicks because you favor drawing blood and lacerating with your hands, because you know you can do 5 punches before you can do 2 kicks. So there's more hands usually in Litway. So it's very, very freeing.
That's awesome. It's exciting. I'm so excited for it. And the other thing, I mean, just the generalization to have a fight of this magnitude going on in the middle of the pandemic. It's happening, and it's happening on American soil. We're getting an opportunity to be a part of history, which is so exciting. We're going to take a commercial break, but when we come back, we're going to give 5 lucky viewers an opportunity to ask the King of Letway, Dave Leduc himself, any question that they want, and Robin will pass along the question, and he'll answer it. So we'll be back after a word from our local sponsors.
John Vigil, President CEO, Dynamic Mortgage Concepts. Just wanted to emphasize the fact that we are a veteran-owned mortgage company. I have 8 years of service in the Army, and funny enough, hired my boss from the Army as one of my loan originators. We kept in contact after I ETS'd, and he was looking for his next gig after the Army, and we hired him as an originator, and he's been doing great here. He's a 30-year retired sergeant major. You know, it's just within our culture, so we do things within our past. Our background has always been serving people. We've never stopped serving you.
Welcome back, everybody. Robin Black here with the king of Letway, Dave Leduc. Dave, so we got some questions for you from some people. Feel free to send a few. Shelby will pass them over to me via phone. But the first one from JJ, what's the worst injury that you've ever sustained fighting Letway?
Fuck.
And I have a follow-up.
Okay. Well, I tried to be as evasive as possible because it's very easy to get cut and lacerated, and I seen, like, prior to going to Letway, I saw a lot of fights, guys coming out with broken hands, and I saw a lot of Burmese, they just drop their chin and they block punches with their skull, and you break your hands if you're not conditioned for that. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna hit only when it. When I see it, I'm gonna use more weapons that are less breakable, maybe more sturdy. And but my first fight, no, it was my second fight in Japan. I fought an Australian fighter, tough guy, and in the second round, I broke my finger. It's such a small thing.
Hurts.
Right, it hurts. And the story here, and I think I can say, is that everybody was Japanese, right? And they're super calm, but my opponent was Australian, and he spoke English. So everybody knew, because they were they saw my finger was completely broken, and everybody knew about this injury except my opponent. And my corner, I never had a corner before my coach. I always had Burmese, and they didn't speak English at the time. So I couldn't even tell them, okay, pop it out so I can close my fist. So basically, I could not make too much noise because my opponent would know, okay, his hand is broken. So I just let it like this for 3 rounds. I couldn't close my fist. And I was punching with one. In every bad, and every bad things that happens in life, there's something positive. And it made me use more my jab, use more my elbow, and use more my head. But that was a big decisive moment in my career. Like, because I couldn't do my power cross, I started using more headbutts, and that basically traced my the way I fight. So, after it was such an easy fix. After the fight, I went to the doctor, popped it out, could close it. But
brutal.
That's the thing. And small cuts. I got a cut for my wedding, actually.
Just in time.
Yeah. Then on the day of my wedding, I got married 2 days after my fight. Got stitches, but
part of it.
Yeah.
She understands. My follow-up question is, what's the most damage you've done to somebody else with a blow?
Sure. Well, I know, he can't understand. He speaks Burmese, but it was against Tuntumin. It was, I cut his scalp open, and then I with a takedown, and after doing a lot of push kick to the leg, on the takedown, I broke his I think his ligaments, ACL, whatever. So he was actually out for 2 years.
Wow.
But this 2 years, I think he was meditating on my picture, and he was like, I'm going to get him back. So he eventually challenged me again, and we did a trilogy fight 2 years later. And it was the most intense. My coach could say, it was the most intense feeling. The crowd was all cheering for him. It was supposed to be his big moment of redemption. It didn't happen like it didn't happen like that.
That's what Cyrus is looking for too, that big moment where he writes history. So can you draw on that experience? The experience of literally having faced this? Almost every time you've been fighting over in Myanmar, you face that pressure where somebody wants to take it away from you.
Well, you know what? We both don't have each other in our hearts, Cyrus and I, because of the history of this, and it's a lot at stake in this. I could say, though, with honesty, that after I won the belt in 2016, I know the promoter came into my hotel room, and he said, okay, your next opponent or whatever, you're getting challenged by Cyrus. I'm like, and I remember seeing his spinning kick, what he did to Tuntumin, who was a very tough opponent. Like, okay, that's a real threat for the throne, a real threat to my belt. And I said yes, because according to the rules of Letway, if you refuse a challenge, you're a pussy, and you're gonna get stripped out of your so I had obviously said yes, but I have to admit I was very cautious and very okay, that's a real threat. So when we ended up fighting our first fight, I was too respectful. I was too respectful and too cautious. So I think people are gonna tune in on Saturday are gonna see a less cautious and less respectful Dave. I respect his career. I respect what he's done. He has triple the experience that I have, but it comes down to what's going to happen. Yeah.
It's interesting that you mentioned that. I've got a few questions here that have been sent to my device. I'll ask you in a second, but it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I was there in Myanmar to commentate when you fought Seth Baczynski. And Seth would have been so much more dangerous to you if you treated him with more respect. If you hesitated, if you weren't aggressive, if you didn't attack, it would be more dangerous.
Yeah.
So that experience, that worked beautifully for you in that situation. Because if you relaxed or gave him a chance to get into it, it would have been different.
They get comfortable.
Yeah.
True.
All right, John asked, what's your favorite moment while fighting or the most fun fight you've had? And let me add to it that when have you been in one of them where you're just like, of course, this, like going into it, it's pressure, stressful, weird, distracting. But do you remember some of these moments when you're in it and you're like, of course, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be right now?
Well, I'm hoping I'm going to get that feeling for this fight Saturday. And I saw the Atlas Saloon here in Wyoming. It looks pretty badass. There's history there. I didn't know it was like a pretty big thing for country music, right? So anyway, that's cool. But I could say it was my first fight in Japan, fighting a poke. I played video games all my life. Street Fighter, like Japan, was a big deal. And I was like, I was like taking E Honda and Sagat. I was like, okay, I'm gonna fight in Japan one day. I didn't know how or when or even if I would. So when I fought Japan, I remember it was a big difference from the Burmese crowd, like fucking throwing bottles and going crazy. And in Japan, they're not even saying a word. So it was definitely I felt like, okay, I made it like I'm fighting in Japan, the mecca of fighting. We know the K1, Pride, and all these. Okay, and we brought lightweight to Japan, and it got very popular.
Yeah, no, it is. But I keep coming back to this as I walked around this town today. This is exactly the logical place to bring this, don't you think?
Yeah, they're flexible. They're open-minded.
Yeah.
They don't care. I love it. They're free-spirited people.
Yeah,
I love it.
All right, what else have we got? John asked. That one. James asked, "What does this mean for your legacy?" We talked about that a little bit.
Well, it's gonna solidify who's the best non-Burmese fighter, and I know it's me. I just have to prove it on Saturday, and it's basically shutting down one of my biggest rivals. I already shut down Tuntumin, who was a fucking monster.
And a legend.
Yeah, exactly. And he's younger than me. Actually, he's 28. So I can do it with Cyrus too. And I honestly, I have to give respect when credit is due. I have to give credit when credit is due. Cyrus, he's knocked out Tuntumin twice. And that's a fucking it's hard to do. So I have to be ready, and I'm excited. I want to fight. I want to fight right now. Let's fucking go right now.
It's I've talked to hundreds of the greatest fighters. George St. Pierre talked very directly to me about the importance of identifying exactly what the challenge is. Because if you're sitting there, oh, this guy's beneath me, he doesn't, that doesn't help. No. People see that sometimes and think that's confidence. Real confidence comes in knowing exactly what it is and knowing how you're equipped to deal with it.
Yeah, well said. I think it's if you're delusional and you think there's no danger, you're not at the right place. You're gonna get knocked the fuck out.
Yep. And George actually also said to me when he fought Dan Hardy, he thought he had overestimated the challenge, and as a result, held back somewhat. And that's kind of what you're saying to some degree about Cyrus, that maybe you gave him, and that's a different way to say too much respect, where you overestimate the possibility of the threat, which actually increases the threat.
Yeah, well said, exactly.
Let's see if we got any more, and let's get some final thoughts. David asked, who's next after Cyrus? And people are often, there's a very common line of thinking. It's like, let's do this thing, and then what's next? Yeah. But is there a next?
I can't say anything for that. Like, you can't do that. Yeah. You have to focus on the task at hand. Right now, all my focus is on him. And we did a press conference yesterday, and he said, if I want to beat him, I have to kill him, and I'm not ready to kill him. Well, I'm going to try. And he said that 2 bullets couldn't kill him because he got shot. And I told him that my elbows are worse than the bullets that he got. And I just need to land one. And may the best man win. Yeah, I'm ready.
Let's Let's get these people watching it to be able to share this with their friends and tell their friends to come and watch this. I mean, if you're watching this, it's because you love combat sports, martial arts, fighting. You're not watching the King of Letway talk to a guy who's passionate about fighting live if you don't. So you're coming and getting the pay-per-view. Where do they get it?
Yes, LeducWashington.com.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it'll be Dave's Facebook page, Sparta's Facebook page. But share it. You know other people that are going to fall in love with this. This is a monumental fight.
And I want to say, like, thank you to all the fans that are supporting this event, that are part of this, because Letway is growing not just because of me or Robin or Sparta or Commission. It's growing because of the support of people. Like, and I want us to be able to say to the world, like, look, Letway is here to stay, and we look at the numbers we're pulling, and this is the first ever Letway pay-per-view ever. You know, I was very proud with WLC that we were able to bring Letway to UFC Fight Pass, which is
let's
a
give a
milestone.
shout out to the World Letway Championships and Letway World.
Oh, by the way, what's next, to answer your question, what's next to after that? Well, I want to defend my WLC title. So that's if it wasn't me with the pandemic, I would be right there right now, and I can't wait for this because they treat me very well.
Yeah, I love them too.
Yeah, but you know, like that's UFC Fight Pass was a big deal for Letway because it's a 2,000-year-old sport on a modern platform and a phone. You know, it looks easy, but we're talking and now we're going even deeper than the UFC Fight Pass. We're going on pay-per-view. I didn't think it was going to be possible because all my fights were live on national television. You know, pulling great numbers on free TV. Well, let's fucking do this.
Yeah, let's do this. Share it with your friends. Tag some people. This is one of these fights you have to see, and you have to see live, and you have to feel the energy of it. And we're going to take a break. I think then we'll come back and we'll wrap it up with some last thoughts, and we will enjoy the hostilities. Back in 5.
What's up, guys? This is Jeff here with Sparta Media Group, and I wanted to take a brief moment to talk about all the exciting products that we offer here at Sparta Media Group. Whether you're a small business or a large business and beyond, we offer it all. We are your one-stop shop for promotional items. We build video content. We build YouTube pre-roll. We do graphic design. We do screen printing and t-shirts. We wrap vehicles. We create vinyl banners, direct to mailers, and business cards, and so much more. To learn a little bit about Sparta MG, click the link below and follow me. Welcome back to the Sparta Media Group studios here in Boulder, Colorado. We're excited for Saturday night. I know you are. I know Dave is. He's sitting here shadow boxing, throwing headbutts. Me and Robin are trying to look out, not catch anything here. Robin, you talked about it earlier. This card is stacked from head to toe. There's incredible amounts of kickboxing, there's Muay Thai, there's MMA on the card. One of the fights I want to talk about that I think is just going to be a barn burner outside the main event is the co-main event. Nufal Al-Khazri from Elevation Fight Team, as we all know what powerhouses they are, versus Gino Shadov from Factory X. They are both monsters, and it's very rare this early in the career you get the top two guys to do battle.
Yeah, we've been seeing that a little bit because these high-level teams start to understand that their high-level guys either are going to take big fights and learn to handle that challenge early, or they're going to take small fights while some of the other high-level prospects out there are taking big fights. So it's a very fortunate time to be able to watch newer, younger fighters because coaches know the value in testing them early. MMA is a beautiful thing in that if you're 7 wins and 3 losses, but you became a better fighter, that's far better than being 12-0 and fighting nobody. But when you get to see guys that, at 27 and 28 and 29 years old are going to be Bellator, UFC, high-level fighters, and you get to see them fight early. I've got to do that a few times in the last couple of years. It's a beautiful thing. It's shocking. It shocks people when you see how good these kids are. You go back to UFC 160, and they're at a higher level than that was, and that's not bullshit. That's where the level of coaching and training and learning is at. So, man, and for you guys to put on, all these different combinations of rule sets and skills and styles will really set the table to allow us to kind of unpack all of that. So by the time the audience gets to Let Way, they'll have a good understanding of how the broad strokes of real free fighting works.
Yeah, absolutely. The big excitement here, Dave, has been all these young fighters, like Nufal and Gino, they're early 20s, maybe even.
That's a co-main event?
Yeah.
Is it a title fight?
It is. It's a title fight, 145-pound. Nufal is the reigning defending champion. He's fought lions his entire career, just like Gino has. And so this is a fight that is a must-see TV. But for them, they're excited because you're bringing the eyeballs. You're bringing the massive amounts of spectators to witness these guys and for them to have the opportunity on not just our platform, but your platform, which is international. And that's got to make you feel good because, they're excited for that.
It's good. It's going to be a fucking banger.
I can't wait to analyze their work. These young studs coming from these super camps like this, when they fight each other at a high level, it shocks people how good they are and how good the fights are. Man.
I give a seminar at Elevation in Denver, and that's where Curtis Blaze trains. Yeah, with Sean, and shout out to you guys. It's a great gym, and so I hope and the other guy trains at where?
Factory X.
Factory X, yeah.
That's where Dustin Jacoby out of there. Chris Camozzi was there.
So I think it's gonna be a good co-main event.
It's gonna be exciting. So the card is stacked with young talent from head to toe. Everybody's super excited about it. An opportunity to showcase in such a big, vast audience like this. And that's what's so awesome is there's going to be Let Way fans that get to watch MMA and maybe become a fan of that, and whatnot. Robin, how big do you think this is going to be in the combat sports community on Saturday night? What is your prediction?
I mean, I don't know how many people click a button and buy a thing, but there'll be many, many thousands and thousands of people watching it. But I think it's also not just, hey, wouldn't it be great if 87,000 people buy it or 112,000? But numbers aside, it's the who. These are people who are obsessed, driven, passionate fans of combat. And then you add Mark Coleman and Joe Rogan and these people that want to watch this fight and will be watching it while people are watching it at home. It's not just the how many, it's the who. The people who are true connoisseurs of combat. That's who's going to watch it. And I hope that's 200,000 of them. But whoever it is, if you're watching this, it's because you love combat. And that's just fucking cool.
Yeah, we were talking about it. I can't lie. We're fucking excited.
And just to answer what you said, Jeff, about what's the outcome, I think the outcome is going to be legendary because, like I said, I cannot stress enough how powerful and how important it is to have Let's Way on U.S. soil. It's such a big market. Being born in Canada, I knew that United States was something one day we have to do. And then when I went into Myanmar, and then we got into Japan, and then we got Let's Way into Slovakia and Poland, and United States has to happen.
Yeah.
And we're here now, and I think a lot of states are going to copy what you guys do. Yeah. And they're going to want to be let's find a way to legalize it. Let's find a way to find loopholes and everything. So it's going to change a lot of things. It's going to really give a kick in the butt to a lot of promoters and a lot. So I'm excited.
But I can tell you, and I said this to one of your business partners today, when you get to be exposed to 100 different fighter organizations in the world, you see you guys are leveling up at the right time. You've done shows for years, 10 shows a year for going on a decade now. You've had the successes and the setbacks and the challenges. You've got a real team of people. So you're in a position to actually do this. You will have people try to copy you, but most will not be able to. Because,
that's what I mean,
because to be great at whatever it is people pursue in their life takes dedication and learning and trial and error, and you guys have done that. And that's why this is happening.
Yeah, you know, I think the thing I'm most proud of, and we talked about the other night at dinner, is that we are so passionate about it that even when times were extremely hard and we were failing, you know, even financially, we had so much passion and love for it. And everybody that's here tonight, everybody on the team, they genuinely, they love this. We live for this. Like we talked about, you're like, hey, I get to travel the world, and I get to sit next to a cage in a ring and watch combat sports. And that's why we love it, you know? And we have a team full of innovators. You know, King of Sparta tournament was a big deal. We did it at Pepsi Center, debuted June 30th, 2018. That took 3 years to get approved because the commission was like, this is too much damage. They could fight 10 possible rounds. What's the difference between that and boxing, right? Where 90% of the blows are to the head. So we got it approved, and that night it went down, and it was epic. And we went on a series of King and Queen of Sparta tournaments that just grew the fan base of boxing, kickboxing, and MMA, because, you know, boxing here is largely a Latino a fan base. And then you have, you know, the Muay Thai kickboxing and then MMA. And so when they started coming together and you started seeing the boxers support the MMA fighters and the MMA fighters support the boxers, and that's where I'm seeing now. I have never in our 12 years experienced the buzz or the hype of a fight like this. And I mean, it gives me the chills. I got goosebumps thinking about what's going to happen on Saturday night. This is another one of those pinch me moments for me and the entire team to be like, holy shit, we just made history, and we are part of one man's legacy.
Yeah, and it's first to market as well, and nobody's going to be able to take away that. Like, I didn't expect to be here in Wyoming fighting Litway.
No.
It's something. It's
and it's
pretty
wonderful,
special,
man.
Pretty special.
Yeah, Brian Pedersen's a madman. I know you're watching. You know, what can we come up with next? And now we'll just threaten people and say, hey, if you think you're going to do this, we're going to fly Dave out there, and he's going to headbutt the shit out of you, because this is now
For the right
Sparta's
price.
platform.
For the right price.
That's right. Hey, it's just a business here. Well, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank Robin for joining us, and Dave, thank you so much. We are so pumped, so excited. Make sure that you click on the link below that we're going to be posting this, and share it. It's going to be an epic night Saturday. Pay-per-view starts at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We'll probably be into the main event somewhere around that 9:30 mark, and we could all sit back and say we are part of witnessing history. Dave, good luck. Robin, thank you again.